speaker today, Andrew Cretella. He'll be speaking from the basic manual, project number 6, vocal variety. 5 to 7 minutes. Help me welcome Andrew Cretella and his speech, Family Memories.
I have only 2 memories of my early childhood. In the first, I was standing in my crib, holding onto the rail, as I looked up and my father walked in and gave me some candy. My mother came running over and started yelling at me. There I was, standing there, holding on, looking up, as my mother and father yelled at each other. Strangely enough, this is my only memory of my mother and father together. This was our family moment. Rumor has it that it got to a point one day where my mother said, "I'm taking my daughter." And my father said, "Well, then I'm taking my son." And they split up. The next thing I remember, I'm standing in my aunt and uncle's living room, nervously reaching out to touch this strange blue glass tabletop with my little finger, as my father made the case for my aunt and uncle to raise me. In both of those situations, I felt completely powerless, quite nervous, and a little afraid. Throughout most of my school years, I had to often explain why my parents had a different last name than I did. Well, they're not exactly my parents, you see, they're my guardians. And now I had 2 brothers, but they're not exactly my brothers, they're my cousins. They're like my cousin brothers. It was a little awkward. I didn't know anyone else who had a situation like this. And throughout most of my childhood, I was given the distinct impression that my mother was evil and my sister was guilty by association. But when I was about 20 years old, I got a letter from my sister. My aunt and uncle were not amused. But my sister and I would talk on the phone, and one day she said, "Hold on, there's somebody here who wants to talk to you." And sure enough, she put my mother on the phone. The next thing I heard was, "Hello, Sonny." I never even knew that I had a nickname. That was the first time I realized that I had a nickname. Well, my sister and I saw each other a few times, and one day she drove me to upstate New York, and I met my mother, as well as quite a few other people I was told were my half or step brothers or sisters. It was quite surreal, but the best was yet to come. You see, when I got married, I invited my mother and my sister. It made sense to me. But then I got this call from my brother John. This was the way he came off on the phone. "What is wrong with you? How could you do such a thing? Don't you know that your aunt who raised you can't go to the wedding if your mother's there?" Now apparently, I don't know how to hold a grudge. I mean, wasn't it my grudge to hold or not? To this day, I don't understand how this works. But against my better judgment, I acquiesced. I gave up. I disinvited my mother. Now, I was not amused. Well, the big day came. We got married in the Brooklyn Botanical Garden. So it was a nice day. We were outdoors. We were in the Rose Garden. But all during the ceremony, I heard this strange sound behind me. Every few minutes, I heard this loud crying. It was the kind of sound I had associated with an Italian funeral. When the ceremony was over, I looked around and I discovered that it was my sister. She felt that the only people there she knew or knew her hated her. And she felt terrible. She was completely upset. So I grabbed a hold of my father and I said, "Pascal, you know who that is. Go talk to her." But as I looked on, my aunt who raised me went over and consoled my sister. I couldn't believe it. All of a sudden, it was like they were the best of friends. They became buddies, and afterwards they exchanged cards and letters. It was unbelievable. Now, I don't know what to make of all this. To me, it's completely amazing. But I figure there's enough material here to keep a team of psychiatrists busy with a detailed analysis. I share this information with you to provide some insight as to how I've become the strange, neurotic character I am today. As Stan Laurel once famously observed, that's my story, and I'm stuck with it.